I mean, the audio is really what it is.
Yeah.
No one's really watching right now, but they will. So,
How do you know?
it's live. But you don't have any of
My
the
live also see that.
Yeah, you'll see some viewers a little bit. All right, here we go. Hey, this is Wes. I am here with Frank Aruas, who is my boss and owner of Blind Appeal. This is our podcast number 3 for Treasure Valley Max Media. If you're watching live here on Instagram, I've got a live feed here. We'll post it later. We'll post this up on Spotify and iTunes so you can watch it. But anyway, here is Frank Aruas.
Howdy.
So,
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Sorry.
Good.
It is what it is. Hey, we're working pretty hard on this podcast thing. Kyle and I are kind of trying to split it a little bit because our schedules don't mesh as much. So you're going to hear a podcast from me. You're going to hear one from Kyle. We're going to interview local business people in the Treasure Valley. If you do want to do that, hit me in the DMs on Instagram or anywhere you follow me on social media. One of the things that we got here is this is going to be the first interview with someone. You listen to the interview about who I am, who Kyle is. You know that I work for this company called Blind Appeal, and I sell window coverings. I'm one of Frank's salesmen. Frank is my boss, and one of the reasons why I wanted to start with Frank was because I have a lot of, I can't even think of the word right now, but admiration for Frank because he's an entrepreneur, and we talked about that. He's a businessman that has come a long way. He's been selling blinds for a while, but he's also come from a lot of different places, and he gets through adversity. He's working his butt off, and it's really cool to see how that goes. And those are kind of people that we want to put on our podcast and show kind of the Treasure Valley who we are. So with that said, here we go. We're going to get right into it, and we're going to start with asking Frank, kind of who he is and where he came from. And we'll get to know him a little bit better on a better level, and then we'll start talking about the company and what we do. So, Frank, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Obviously, you already said hi, but we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
So, can you go ahead and tell us just a little bit of your history about who you are, where you grew up, all those types of things?
You bet. So, appreciate you having me here. I think this is cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
Before
exciting.
we start, I want to just say, Wes, I've been so impressed with how much time and effort you put into not only your job with Blind Appeal, couldn't be happier to have you, but just doing this, the social media stuff, you really stepped out on a limb and put yourself out there. So I respect the heck out of you for that. So
I appreciate that.
It means a lot to us.
It's been pretty fun as a whole, and I appreciate you working with me and allowing me to do some of these things that are pretty enjoyable to me. So that's awesome.
I also want to point out, secondly, although San Francisco is a bigger banner back here, we got LA, and that's going to give you somewhat of a hint of where I'm from. But
one of the things, I'm going to stop you right there, because there's a big elephant in the room. You see that big SF over there. It's kind of a dynasty. I'm trying to remember the last time that Blue Hats won any championship. But anyway, go ahead.
It was in my lifetime, I'll tell you that much for sure. So, 1988 to be exact.
Oh, dang, it was in my lifetime
I
too.
don't remember when the Giants were on the World Series last, though.
Oh, that was only what? Let's see here. 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Anywho, back to me, right?
All right.
No, I grew up in Southern California. My dad was a Baptist preacher, so we kind of moved around a lot, different churches that he preached at. When I was a little kid, we lived in Joshua Tree, California, which is right outside of the Joshua Tree National Monument, which is a super cool place. So I grew up climbing rocks and playing in the desert and building forts with cactus trees and all that stuff.
Pretty sure that's a Pearl Jam song too, so that's pretty cool.
I heard that, yeah. So, cool place to be, snakes, tarantulas, scorpions. So they didn't freak me out so much then. I don't know why they do now, but anyway, so that was a cool place to grow up. I was only there until I was 7 years old, but then we moved around Southern California quite a bit. Down there in my childhood, I was basically just as, like every kid, boy, girl, whatever, especially boys, I guess. I was a super just sports fanatic.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wanted to play on the Dodgers my whole life. I knew I would because I was so good, right?
Yeah.
Like every little kid,
thinks,
they all know how good they are. But I'd spend hours just throwing the tennis ball against the wall and playing full 9-inning games, with just myself and I, and that was basically what my childhood, what I was obsessed over. I mean, I'd listen to Vin Scully doing Dodger games.
Oh, yeah.
All through junior high, keeping score, all that stuff. So, a lot of good memories there. My first working experience was, I did a paper route when I was pretty young, but then
that was a big thing back in those times.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that
do they
you're
have
old,
papers
but
anymore?
yeah, they do, but they don't
You
deliver
don't see
them.
paper guys
Yeah.
running around on their bikes these days. So I did that when I was maybe 14, 15, and then my first job was working at a place called Campus Crusade for Christ, which was where their headquarters was in San Bernardino, California, in the mountain foothills there. And I worked on the grounds, climbing palm trees, trimming trees and stuff like that. And then once I got through high school, my first real job, career I should say, was working for Vaughn's Grocery Company,
Okay.
where I was assistant manager for quite some time. I worked there 7 years. But when I knew it wasn't the right job for me was when I used to run a night crew. We would stock shelves all night, things like that, turn the radio, blast it up all night, and just be animals throwing product on the shelves. And one morning, our district manager came into the store, and we weren't done yet. Like, the store was opening, and we still had some boxes on the floor, and we were trying to get everything cleaned up. He pulled me aside and said, "Frank, if your crew isn't afraid of you, then you're not doing the job you're supposed to do." And right then, like, if they don't like you, he said,
Right.
basically.
That makes a lot
And
of sense.
when he had said that, I thought, well, that is odd, because all I want people to do is to like me. I want to get along. I want them to respect me, of course, but I also want them to appreciate, know that I appreciate them. They're working hard, and so anyway, that's when I realized that probably wouldn't be a career, because it's kind of the mindset back then.
Yeah, and I kind of want to, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
cool.
cool.
I'm going to interrupt, but I just want to say that that's one of the things that I really like about working for you, is that I know that I'm appreciated. And I think that as far as that goes with like a good employer, that's something that they do. They make sure that they know. You don't have to rule with fear. People don't have to be afraid that their job is going to be gone all the time. And so I think that's awesome that you recognize that people, that didn't matter. That was something that needed to be handled that way.
I think back then that was much more prevalent than now.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I'm sure it still is that way just in some companies now. But back then that was pretty common, It was kind of like a rule brought by just being Mr. Authoritative and things like that.
Right, and I think that people need to understand that that's not really you can be a boss, and you can teach people to do things, and you can allow them to do things to make the company better, or do whatever you're doing better without being a dictator.
Oh, exactly.
You got to tell them how to do
It's
it.
counterproductive.
Yeah,
really.
right. It kind of ruins relationships, and you want your employees to be happy. And one of the things that we always talk about, like me working at Les Schwab, was they wanted to make sure that you knew every part of the job. And so I was always the person who was showing someone how to do something, because the more that your employees know, it's not like they're going to take your job away. They're just more educated on what the process is, and they can be a better employee and respect you more.
No doubt. Yeah, I think that's where what you need to do is create a culture. We try to do this, is in that, I know some managers, some owners, whatnot, they're a little intimidated by people that might be better than them at certain things. So they don't want to be shown up or whatnot. I have the complete opposite philosophy. It's like, I want everybody to work for me, with me, to be better than me in some ways, because obviously I don't do everything.
Right.
I don't do everything well or perfect. And each person in our company, I truly believe each person in our company does a much better job than I would do in their same role. So that's kind of people I think that's why we're lucky as a company. We have super people, in all areas.
And that's not easy to do either. That's not easy to find. I mean,
And it hasn't always been that way, but yeah, we're definitely at a spot now where I think we have the best people on the planet, sincerely.
I'd say we got a pretty good crew.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were at the grocery store.
Grocery store, and then that's about when I started having, so my first son, Sean, he was born in 1984. I worked at Vaughn's until 1986, I believe it was. And then we had Justin, my youngest son. Just 2 boys. And then I went from Vons, and then I got a job with Frito-Lay, where I started out on a route sales job where I would just call on, like be in a fifth wheel truck with all the product and sell at the store level, build displays, fill the shelves, all that stuff. That was my first real sales job in a way, because my job was to gain space in the stores and to talk to the store managers and tell them why they should be selling our product.
Right.
Obviously salty snacks is a very impulse product, so you want to get it out in as many locations in the stores you can.
Get it on the end of the row.
So the first time I really thought, I've never really thought of myself as a sales guy, but that's what I was doing without really thinking too much about it. And why I did that was because the more I sold, the more I made.
Right.
So I was very motivated to be successful and make as much money as I can for my young family, feed ourselves. Back then I was working, literally I'd start my route about 2, 3 in the morning, get home about 3 in the afternoon, and it was just always on, just working my tail off. And my wife used to joke thinking, I looked like I had cancer because I was just burning so many calories all the time. I was as skinny as a rail. But anyway, so I did that for a couple years, and then they promoted me to a district manager, so I was over a few route salespeople. So that was fun. That's my first experience with really managing people.
Right.
And that's where I first learned how, I guess, how to motivate people, how not to motivate people. A lot of it was trial by error because I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
And my first thing was because I was managing people that I worked with, I was a peer with for quite some time. So I wanted to continue to be their friends and have them like me. So it was really a difficult transition to kind of keep a balance between them respecting me, but still, I guess not liking me per se.
Yeah,
but
it's a fine line to walk. It's interesting how, and I talk about this a lot in a lot of the videos that I do, but how you can manage different people different ways, and you may take a different train towards me. Like you may be able to yell at me, but you can't yell at someone else in the company.
So
or you have to know what's the best way to motivate them, and I think that's part of what you get with just experience, just doing the job, just trying to figure out a way to motivate them.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody responds completely different. You can tell one person 100 positive things, and then just give them a little constructive criticism, and it just kills them.
Right.
Other people, all they want to hear is constructive criticism because they just want to get better and better. So it's different with every personality, but just kind of learn through that.
Yeah.
But then after that, for a couple of years, then I got into, they promoted me to, they call it a region sales manager, which basically at that time I was calling on headquarters of like grocery chains. I also called on Costco in the Southern California division. I was on the Walmart team, so we went to Bentonville, Arkansas a few times. And so basically there's a lot of traveling around and just selling at the top level, trying to build relationships with the higher levels of different organizations.
Right.
And back then it was a lot different too, because nowadays they're much stricter. The IRS and everything is pretty, corporations can't do as much. Back then the culture was you basically sold and built relationships by taking people places, like taking them golfing or taking them to Laker games or whatever. So that was a lot of my job, which was really awesome. It was a lot of fun. And basically back then it wasn't necessarily a tough sales thing. It was just building a good rapport with people. Kind of, you do this for us and we'll do this for you kind of thing.
Right.
We wouldn't say that, but that's really what it was.
Yeah, that's what you got to do sometimes to make sure that people know that you appreciate them.
Right.
Just the way it works.
Yeah. But that's where I learned that, it's very competitive. The salty snacks industry is very competitive, even though Frito-Lay is by far the number one company on the planet for that. Locally and regionally, there's a lot of competition. So, and a lot of people we called on didn't want Frito-Lay to be dominant. They wanted to give the little guys a chance, which is fantastic. Competition is super. So that's, that's where I basically learned more so on how to really take care of the customer. It's like I had to prove that we would take better care of them. I had to prove that, I wanted success for their business more than I wanted success for me. Obviously, that would follow, but
hand in hand.
And that's kind of where my philosophy is nowadays, and I think yours is exactly the same. I've seen it in you. You want to just take care of the customer and do the right thing for them,
Right.
regardless of if it's the right thing or not for you, because in the long term that's going to get you.
Yeah, it leads into making a lifetime customer versus a one-time customer.
Yeah,
and that's what we're trying to do.
exactly right.
Yeah. So after that, Frito-Lay kind of led into a little bit of a move, correct?
Yeah, so my dad, who I mentioned earlier was a Baptist preacher, he actually moved up here. First Baptist of Boise called him up here to be their pastor in 1984.
Uh-huh.
So we've been coming up here since 1984, back and forth quite a bit. We always really enjoyed it up here, but we're just had our own lives down there and all that. But then in 2000, we ended up moving up here. I didn't have a job. I actually sold real estate for a little bit before coming up here, but then came up here. I had different jobs I just couldn't really stand because I was always used to being out and about, outside sales type of jobs. And then I came up here, I just couldn't find a good outside sales job. So I started off, first job was sitting in a cubicle all day, calling, trying to sell businesses, local businesses, computer training. And trying to get them to use our company to train their employees on computers. That was very challenging.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's one of those things where sometimes I'd be sitting in the cubicle just regretting that the only way I can get out of this is to call the next number. And I just thought, what have I done in my life to be here now?
To deserve this.
Go from something I totally love to this. It was really tough. It was very humbling, which I must say was not a bad thing for me, because I know in the past, I've definitely had issues with pride, with thinking I was all that in my 30s, and it was pretty ugly actually. I wouldn't be as humble as I needed to be. So I think God really used me coming up here, bringing my family up here. It was tough on them too, and then me not having a really good career or job. And then I left that job. Then I sold accounting software, same way, inside sales.
Oh man.
Doing online demos with companies around the country, things like that. Then I sold copiers and printers. None of those did I like so much. So bottom line is, and how I got to this today, Blind Appeal, is I had a buddy in 2006 that gave me the chance to work with him, and he was in the drapery blind business. He had his own company. It's kind of an interior design type of company.
Okay.
So he asked me to help him out, or I asked him if he needed help, honestly. And so I worked with him for about a year learning this industry, learning about, soft goods like draperies and that kind of thing.
Draperies, that's one of our favorites.
I know. I think I learned to hate them so much because I installed so many of them.
We do sell them still, though.
We
do. Even though they're not very fun, we do sell them.
And we do a great. We have Alvina who does phenomenal job.
She's awesome.
Our installers are fantastic. I wasn't so great at it. So that's where I learned that. I learned just how to sell blinds, install blinds. I basically installed for him more than anything else. And then after about a year, that business was closing down. So I decided to, I was too old. I was 45 at the time. I thought there's no way I'm going to go out there and try to get another job. I just was not in the mood at that stage of my life to go through interviewing, to just searching for jobs and trying to prove myself again. So this is the first time in my life I actually really thought about I'm going to do something on my own. Because the blind business, fortunately, there's a plus and a minus to it. The plus is it's really easy to start a blind business. It doesn't take a lot of money. You can just have a vehicle, purchase some sample books, set up a few accounts, and start knocking on doors or start doing quotes. So it's a pretty simple business to begin, which is very positive, which was what I needed at the time. I didn't have any money or anything. So it was a perfect thing for me to get going. And this was in 2007. 2007, the economy was good. I mean, housing here in this market was really well. I thought, again, pride snuck in on me, and I thought, man, I'm pretty darn good at this, because the first year or so was really, we did really well. It was really busy. But then 2008, 2009, we all know what happened. Everything crashed, and you saw empty houses halfway built that were just the builders walked away from, and all of a sudden there was 20 blind companies in town trying to get one job, one house that might be available. It was just a really tough time.
Competitive.
I remember, and this is no joke, I remember a handful of times I actually called my own phone to see if it was working, because it was not working. No one was calling me. It was horrible.
There was cell phones at this time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
there
I
were
just
cell
want to make
phones.
sure.
Yeah, there were cell phones.
No, I'm kidding. I know that they had them in 2000, because that's when I first
There
got
were
one.
regular phones too, though.
Yeah, there was actually. Some
Yeah.
people still have those. What are they thinking?
Right? It's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so fast forward to now, our company consists of, well, my two sons were the first people that worked with me, and then over time we've just grown over the last 12 years, and now we have, I think it's right at 16 people right now.
Mm-hmm.
About half of us are family, like my sons, my sister, my wife, my nephews, my brother-in-law, and then we have the other half of the company is basically people that our family has known. So they're really like family. I mean, they're either friends of the family or people we've known along the way. So I feel like our whole company, and this may sound cheesy, but I sincerely feel like our whole business is family.
Yeah.
Truly. I truly feel that way. I mean, I've never been happier than right now with the people we have. I think everybody cares a lot. Everybody puts in a lot of effort and cares for the customer, most importantly. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I feel about it too. I haven't seen anything that we've done that I wouldn't be proud to do. I mean, I think that it's interesting. Although I'm not I don't share the name, and I'm a friend. I mean, I've known Mike, your nephew, for a very long time, and always thought he was a good person, and it just kind of radiates through the whole family. So it's a good way to go. So that's a little bit about the company. So what would you say the main difference between what's the benefits of buying from Blind Appeal versus buying from some other company? Because there's lots of them.
Yeah.
What do we offer that they don't? Why would it behoove someone to buy something from us?
That's a good question, because obviously every company asks themselves that, how do we stand apart? And we're in an industry where there's a lot of good competition here.
Right.
There's a lot of really good blind companies in town that I have nothing but admiration for. I mean, there's some folks that have done a really good job. So without me saying anything bad about anyone else, because there isn't a lot to say. There's a lot of great people, but I think the unique thing about us, I believe, and I can't say for sure, but I believe we're the only company that actually has so much family and friends. It's the feel of we all truly love each other. There's no animosity in the company. There's just a really good vibe, and I think that expresses itself out to the customer.
Right.
I know that in every aspect. I think from our office gals, we have 3 office gals. My sister Katie and Brooke. Those 3 gals are the first people that customers talk to when they call in. I just think, man, all 3 of them have just a super personality. They're very professional. They're very buttoned down.
Yep.
Very responsive. If anyone calls in either for a new appointment or with an issue, they're on it until things get taken care of. So.
They are on
They
it.
are,
I know. I've been part of that situation a few times. So
they're very tenacious.
They're on top of it, so it's awesome.
So they're fantastic. And then our install team, we have 4 installers: Cameron, Skylar, John, and Dustin. And I tell you what, I can't imagine a company having, not only in the Treasure Valley but in the country, having more skilled installers, more personable, more professional. They're just good all-around guys that do a phenomenal job. And we couldn't always say that. We haven't always had the superstar installers. We've always had people we've appreciated, but some people that just wasn't the right fit. But right now, our guys, they're great with motorization. Their skill level, I believe, is much higher than the average, so that we really don't have to say no to any customer for any particular reason. We do a lot of exterior shades that tie in with home automation, and just a lot of motorized shades and things like that takes a certain skill level that I believe our guys are second to none. So
yeah, and I don't think like with the installers, as far as it goes, like we very rarely see them. We hear from them when we make a mistake, just because they want to make sure that we don't do that again. But I call them from time to time too, because when you have a question, you want to make sure that it's correct. But they know, they're very knowledgeable. Even our even Dustin, who's been there for 7-8 months now, that's just
phenomenal.
Yeah, we just have these great guys. John and Skyler have been doing it forever, and Mike is what is his? He's pretty much quality control, right?
Well, Mike is considered, he's like the director of operations guy. So he runs the whole install crew. He goes out a lot. If a customer has issues, he's the one that goes out there, gets them taken care of, which has really helped because we actually have a guy dedicated to, if there are issues, blinds break, of course, over time, cords break, whatever. Mike is the guy that goes out there the majority of the time, can either fix them on the spot or get it taken care of. Yeah. He also manages the install guys, and he's very relatable to them. Yeah. He's just a super guy. He's as dedicated to the company as anyone. He just does a super job.
It's really funny. Like, it may sound like it's cliche or something, but honestly, this is the company we work for. This is the way that it is. These people are just awesome, and that's what we have. That's what we have going.
And not to mention other. I think so Sean, he's my son. He runs the whole warehouse, so he receives all the product. He's the one that if you're getting products scheduled to be installed and so forth, he's the one you always talk to.
If we sell something, we say Sean's name every single day, because he's the one who's going to get a hold of you and make sure that gets put in there as soon as it shows up.
Yeah, and he has to. Yeah, he deals with a whole lot of product. Does a great job. Then our sales force, of course, Wes and Ryan, Nicole. Again, I think just super people.
Even you every once in a while.
Once in a while. I try not to scare people away. But, we just have a great team.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's like I said, I've been talking about it for a while. How I love working for the company, because I think I've done a lot of things. Even though I'm only 39, I worked at Les Schwab for 11 years. I was a teacher. I've got 2 degrees. I've done a couple different things. Other than that, all my high school jobs and stuff. But this is one of those things where it was like I knew when I was taking this step out of education into a family-owned business. It was scary at first, but it's been awesome because you guys care, and I think that's the biggest thing that we have, is that people care about what's going on. So
before you go farther, 2 people I just realized. So Tom, my brother-in-law Tom,
Tomas,
he retired from the PO out in Oregon. He's a PO. He retired. He started working for us last October, and he's the guy that organizes if there's any remakes needing to be done. He also go out and do temporary shades. We offer free temporary shades. So anytime you buy blinds from us, obviously you have to wait a few weeks so we can put up temporary shades for free. He does most of those. And then my wife, Wendy, she handles kind of the Costco. We do Costco. Any Costco members that want to buy blinds through Costco in the Treasure Valley, excuse me, we handle those, and Wendy kind of manages that portion of the business. And our Costco business just keeps growing every year. So
hopefully we didn't forget anyone.
I think that's everybody.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, leading into Wendy, because not only does she do that, she does something else that every day, for the most part, when we don't have a road show or something like that, she's also doing something else. And part of this podcast is we're talking about marketing. It's called TVmaXMedia. And Kyle and I, when we started this, what it was we want to help people with their social media marketing. And so it started out by me doing that myself, trying to create business for myself. And I saw this area where I could work on. So now I'm basically podcasting, Instagramming, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok. I mean, there's all these things, and if you're first to arrive on that, it really helps you to reach a larger audience. And so when I first started with the company, we had a little bit of a time where I didn't have a couple days where I was just kind of concerned, because not being a commission salesman, never being that, not knowing that I'm having to rely on pretty much myself to make things happen. And the company does give us leads as a salesman, but we also have to try and find ours and cultivate relationships with other people as well, so that they continually refer us as a salesman, not just a company. And so I had a concern with Frank, and I talked to him a little bit about social media marketing, and I got in with one of my friends, and Frank actually helped me the first 2 months pay for that marketing to get it started. And it was basically on Facebook. I took it to this other level and moved it to everything else that I've been doing, and pushing that a little bit harder, because it got a little slow again, and I was concerned, and I thought, hey, I need to figure out a way to generate some direct leads. So I started doing that. But one of the things that Frank had always done, and which leads into this, is what Wendy does. And that is, why don't you go ahead and tell us what Wendy does every single day, how that list goes, and how we go through that.
So one of the things is very, very time consuming, but one of the ways we've gotten a lot of business over the years is we've actually, and this is how I started really, how I got business from nothing to starting to get business, was we have some really nice flyers, and we actually advertise in a magazine, Eagle and Greenbelt magazine. We put the flyers inside that where our ad is, and then we get a list of all the houses that are sold. As soon as they close, we get a list like within a day or two for when they close. So Wendy is the main person that literally drives to each house and drops off the magazine, so the customer has something to read. It's not just a flyer. It's something that actually has value to them, whether or not they want to buy blinds from us.
Right.
So they have a really nice magazine to go through, but she'll actually drop those off. Sometimes she'll talk to the people if she sees them, but we don't knock on doors or anything like that. But
yeah, a lot of times we'll roll up, and as salesmen, sometimes we do this as well, hand out flyers when Wendy is, at a roadshow or busy or sometimes like that. But the customer is moving in, and the last thing they want to do is talk to anyone at that time. So you're kind of like, hey, here's your flyer, or here's a magazine. If you need anything, just let us know, and then we kind of leave. We don't really want to disturb them while they're moving in, because that's pretty crazy time. But yeah,
exactly.
I mean, and that's part of it. But so that works really well. It worked really well when you first started. It helps us. We get quite a bit of leads from that,
we
right?
probably get 10 appointments a month or so that way, and then we also realtor and builder referrals.
Right.
That's another big part of what we had focused on over the years, is building those relationships with who are the realtors that actually sell these houses that we want to do blinds in, who are the builders building these homes. So we put a lot of focus on building those relationships as well. But you have brought me into this century, or this decade, so I'll let you talk a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that over and over we've talked about this, and I think we talk about it once or twice a week about like what we can do to promote the company within social media, because really what it's about is getting our face in your mind, because you may not need window coverings today, you may need them in a month, you may need them in a year, but if you see me, or if you see Frank, or if you see Blind Appeal, that's why we advertise on our trucks. That's why our trucks are covered in our logo and everything like that. But one of the things that I have been doing myself is I have my own Instagram account, my own stuff, and it's Wes at Blind Appeal, which that may change in the future, but it's still me. I'm still doing the same thing as far as like what the name is. That doesn't mean that it's not me, and so we're basically trying to brand the company, trying to brand, the salesman, trying to get you to choose us over everyone else. And so I kind of talked to Frank about it a little bit, and I've been really hammering it really hard, and we're working towards doing it more as social media, because we can reach, I have almost 12,000 followers. It's getting pretty close. 1,200, sorry, not 12,000. That'd be awesome. I'll get there someday. But I almost 1,200 followers. So I can reach 1,200 people with this podcast. I can reach 1,200 people with this live video that we're doing on Instagram. I post it to my Facebook page, all that stuff. So we can reach people that way versus, handing out, maybe 20 flyers a day?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so we hit 20 a day, and if we're advertising on Instagram 4 or 5 times a day, then we've hit 1,200 people 4 or 5 times a day. So just keeping that in your mind. And so we're working on that, and as a company, we're working towards doing that more and being more and more, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that one of the things that, I was hesitant at first because I wasn't really, I guess, exposed to it too much.
Right.
We would post we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram right now account and all that, and we post, but we don't do it probably as often as we should or the way we should. So that's why it's been great to see you and all the things you've worked through, all the things you've learned. We're actually meeting this week to kind of go through a lot more of that to try to see how can we capitalize it more. And we want to introduce all these people I talked about earlier. We want to introduce each one of them to our audience to have our community and our customers know who it is they're buying from, who is our company.
Right.
Because as you've said many times, and most of us in sales know that people aren't buying from blind appeal. Excuse me. They're buying from the people that they're meeting with, either a salesperson. I mean, that's who they're actually getting to know. So.
And I've said that a lot of times. And I know you have, and I'm just going to kind of put this out there, but I've said that. Sorry. I've said that. Well, sorry. I'm going to stand up for a second here. My Instagram wants to tell me that I've been on there a long time today. So anyway, there we go. Back at it. It's one of those things where I walk into a house, because a lot of times now you're doing way less selling than what you have been, but we get your repeat customers. How's Frank doing? Anytime you say blind appeal, Frank is who it is, and that's who they remember, and that's who they go to. We're trying to get, as salesmen, the three of us, we're trying to get realtors to refer us by name, because we make a little bit more money that way, and that's what we want. But we also want you to know who we are, and so in order to make that happen, we have to make that lasting impression. And I've heard multiple times about me that, hey, that guy's on there all the time. I see that guy everywhere.
Right.
And that's the impression that I'm trying to make. That's what we want to do as a company as well, because when you think of window coverings, we want you to think of us. And that's what we're trying to do. So
that's the only reason we're alive right now.
Yeah, it is really. It's
how exciting is that?
It makes us, but it makes our living, and that's
absolutely.
And it's not about just making money. It's about giving you the best product, the best service, and everything else as well. Making the money helps, right? But we don't make money if we don't help you, and so that's really kind of what it boils down to. So, but yeah, so we're working a little bit more towards that, and that's kind of where this whole thing has led to. This podcast is great. I always wanted to have Frank on here first because I think about it, listening to like Gary Vee and listening to some other people that I listen to. They talk about entrepreneurs, and I don't necessarily know that I put myself in that category, because I'm not really a businessman per se. I have aspirations to be. I have aspirations to own my own company and do things like that. But looking for a person who does that, and that's really what you are. You created this business. You've cultivated it. It's there because of you. It started out as you by yourself, selling and then installing. And I can't say that. Well, I guess I installed 2 shades, but I haven't installed a lot. I could do it. It's not. I changed tires for 11 years. I'm a mechanical person. I'm a hard worker. I know that I could do it, but I believe that anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it and they work hard. So that's kind of where it's at. We've worked really hard to do it.
Well, in all truthfulness, I picture you as an entrepreneur, because you've taken this sales job as a way to, you've taken it on as your own business.
Yeah.
The way you're marketing yourself, all these things that you're doing is like you're doing it as your own business. That's what you're doing. You're building your brand, you're building your business.
Yeah.
So it's very much like,
yeah.
I look at it as entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I know, it's such a hard word to say, isn't it? It's like, it's hard putting that in your vocab, because it is really what it is, but it's fun.
And I want to shout out one more person real quick.
Go for it, you're on it.
Justin, my other son, he worked for me for years and years. He just left us because he's going to start his own restaurant. He just sold his house yesterday, so he's getting the funds together to do that. So it's going to be a vegan restaurant, which is pretty unique. But what I've been surprised at is how many cool
Is he a vegan?
foods there are. Not 100%, but he's
Maybe
he
we'll
very
have
much
him,
believes in it.
we'll have him on here because I'm a carnivore.
yeah.
We'll have a
That'd be
little
awesome.
argument about the carnivore vegan thing.
That'd be a fun conversation. But anyway, we'll keep you posted on that and where he's going to be at and all that.
Yeah. Well, I think we pretty much hit everything that we wanted to. Frank and I talked about how much we talk all the time anyway, so I'm not surprised that it went as long as it did. It's not. It's a great. That's how we want this podcast to be. Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
This.
Sorry to take up. If anyone watched all of this, it's crazy. A lot of your Saturdays.
I think I'm not positive, but I think I see Denise on there, so
Oh my
I think
gosh.
she's watching.
That's dedication.
I'm pretty sure that's her at the top up there with Tom.
Can't see that far.
Yeah, it's very
Hey,
small.
Denise, Tom.
Yeah, what's up? If that's you, I'm pretty sure it is. I'll see you in a second. But yeah. Anyway, so that's it. That's it for this podcast. This is episode number 3 with Frank Ruiz. And please go ahead and see, it is Denise. I know it. I knew it. Denise, give me another thumbs up if that's you. I'm pretty sure I can see that far. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe there's a delay. But anyway. If you like this, if you think this is what you want to do, please DM me. I'd love to get some Treasure Valley businesses on here. This is Frank. He's up. Obviously Blind Appeal's the first one. I have 4 or 5 other people that we're looking towards working with who already know that I'd like to have them on the podcast. And so, really, just DM me. Check out our podcast. Right now, it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Yep, it is Denise. I told you. There's no thumbs up. Yep. So it must be just a little delayed, but. Check it out, subscribe, listen, share it with people. One of the things that I do sometimes with Lewis House's podcast is if you really liked it, screenshot it, make sure that it shows the episode number and all that stuff, and then post it on your social media so that people can see that, so that it can get shared, because we really want to build something that we can help other people build their businesses with. So please share it. Have a great day. Thanks, Frank, for being here.
Thank you.
And so have a good day. Yeah, it was Denise.